Hey everyone, SunTide here. Hope you all are doing great. So, as many of you may know, I am a longsword main, and I think I've been a longsword main in like every Monster Hunter game. And as such, I was very intrigued by the patch notes for Title Update 2. For a few reasons. The main thing is basically, though, that the Crimson/1, which has traditionally been like our best move, was nerfed, whereas most of our other attacks have been buffed. So obviously I was very curious about how big the nerfs were, how big the buffs were, and if that changed things. Because, if you don't know, the best combo for the longsword has always been to, well, first to get to red, which I'm going to do right now. So it's going to get to red, and then once you're in red, to basically alternate between the Crimson/1 and the Spirit Blade 1, which looks like this. It comes out really fast, and you have two really strong attacks in your Crimson Blade 1 in the first hit of your Crimson Slash and the first hit of your Spirit Blade. And this has been known to beat out the full Crimson Slash combo, which is what happens when you just press the X or triangle button. And it also beats out the full Spirit Blade combo, which is this one, which is lets you get into red and is now followed up by the spinning Crimson Slash. So both of those combos are beaten out by just doing the Crimson Slash 1, Spirit Blade 1 combo forever. Until now, because they nerfed the Crimson/1 and buffed all the other Crimson Slash attacks and the Spirit Blade attacks. And so I was very curious to see if the combos changed, and if so, how much it changed by. So yeah, I took a brief note through the Tilnor's GitHub, so just to see like the full raw data because I was that curious, and then I did some testing to figure out the timings of the move. But first, let's talk briefly about like the actual buffs and nerfs and what the actual numbers say. Okay, so the one nerf was to the Crimson/1. Okay, and the nerf that it had was that it dropped the element and status ratios from 0.7 to 0.5. Okay, so normally most of your attacks have an element ratio of 1. They do a normal amount of element damage or a normal amount of status damage. Before, because Crimson/1 was just 2 hits, well, I can't do it right now, but your Crimson/1 is 2 hits, and so they gave them a slightly reduced value, and so instead of each one doing full element damage, each one did 0.7 element damage. Now they dropped that, so now they both do half a damage, so this one button press is going to do the damage numbers for element and status of a single attack, which arguably it should have done all along. So this nerf is very small, and is basically a slap on the wrist. But how good were the buffs, man? And let me tell you, the buffs were actually very dramatic, okay? So the Crimson/2, which is your second attack in the combo, which are these two horizontal slashes, they had about a 22% raw buff and a massive 50% element buff. So they now do 22% more raw damage and 50% more element damage, which is huge, which is a huge improvement, which is great. And that entirely offsets the nerfs to Crimson/1. So if you go Crimson/1 to Crimson/2, you're doing more element damage than you are before. You only lose out if you stop at Crimson/1, which I think is pretty cool. What about Crimson/3? Well, Crimson/3, let me get my Spirit Blade back up. But in Crimson/3, they boost your damage by 13% for raw and another 50% or so for element, which is, again, pretty crazy. So now, this Crimson/3, which are these 3 hits, so left to right, then like that down right attack. So Crimson/3 is this one. So that one now does 13% more raw damage and 50% more element damage. It also had a very slight buff to status from 0.7 per hit to 0.8 per hit, which more or less counteracts the status of nerf on the first hit. So yeah. And that result is that if you use the full Crimson/Slash combo, your raw goes up, your element goes way up, and your status goes ever so slightly down. But there are other things that were also buffed. So the main other things are Spirit Release Slash, which is what happens when you, wrong input. I'm going to run out of Spirit, but that's the finisher you do when you do the Spirit Helmbreaker, and then do the follow-up to that. So this one got about a 10% damage bonus, which is pretty good. The Round Slash also got about a 10% damage bonus, and the Spinning Crimson Slash also got a 10% damage bonus. So all of your cool red finishers, they all do about 10% extra damage, which is pretty good overall. So yeah, pretty nice damage buffs. So the summary for the numbers of changes is that Release Slash, Round Slash, Spinning Crimson Slash, and the full Crimson Slash combo all got around a 10% raw buff. 10% more damage, which is a lot. In fact, if you do the full Crimson Slash combo, so the full string of the 3 attacks, you do 30% more element damage. 30%, which is crazy. But your status goes down 2%, which is nothing. It was a rounding error, I'm pretty sure. However, the Crimson Slash 1 specifically has around a 30% element and status nerf. So it was pretty bad for Crimson Slash 1's element and status damage specifically. So that means, what does that mean for the combos? Did our combos change at all? Because, you know, our best combos have been nerfed, and our alternatives have been buffed a lot. So do we do something other than just alternating between the 2 attacks? Okay, so what I did is I tested the timings of all of the attacks. I basically just did a full sequence. I made sure my sharpness was wide the entire time. I may be showing the clip right now, but basically Crimson Slash 1 to Spirit Blade 1 does 22 combos in 31.9 seconds, so very fast. Now, if you press forward when you do your Spirit Blade, you do a different Spirit Blade attack. The damage is the same, the animations are different, and it's a tiny bit slower, which you may be able to see. So the full Crimson Slash, which is what happens when you just press the triangle combo, does 11 combos in 40.9 seconds, so it's much slower as a combo, the combo is much longer, and the longest combo is the full Spirit Blade combo with Crimson Slash 1, which does 4 combos in 27.1 seconds. You have to do the Crimson Slash 1 just to, like, weave the combo together, but yeah, so that's how fast or slow it is. So we have the combos, we also know the motion values, which means you can put them together and calculate like a motion value per second or per minute. I've chosen to calculate the motion value per minute because that's something I think we can understand a bit better. And so this is the old damage numbers, just so we have comparison and to understand just how good the old combo was. So as you can see, the Crimson Slash to Spirit Blade 1 combo had 3,312 raw per minute. It had the highest raw per minute, it had the highest element per minute, and it had the highest status per minute. Which actually surprised me. I thought that Crimson Slash would have higher element, but no, the Crimson Slash to Spirit Blade combo wins in every single category. In fact, what's really weird is that the forward Spirit Blade, even though it's a bit slower, comes in second place in every category. So there was never any reason ever to not do Crimson Slash to Spirit Blade. It does more raw damage, it does more element damage. So yeah, that is why we always use the Crimson Slash to Spirit Blade 1 combo. However, now, with the buffs and nerfs, what's happened? Well, sadly, not much. The raw damage values for Crimson Slash to Spirit Blade is still higher than every other value. That's also the highest for status, but there are a few things that did change. One, the full Crimson Slash combo has more raw than the forward Spirit Blade. So if you need to reposition and you need to press forward, doing the forward Spirit Blade 1 does less damage per second than doing the full Crimson Slash combo. Okay, so the Crimson Slash combo does beat the worst version of alternating, but alternating is still going to be better for raw and status. As for the Spirit Blade combo, it just loses out completely, even with Airborne. If you didn't know, Airborne boosts the damage of your spinning Crimson Slash. But yeah, so that combo is still way out, not good at all. But the Crimson Slash combo does beat out the forward Spirit Blade. Now, you might think that that's it, and honestly, I thought that was it as well. You're losing 10% of your damage. There is no way to make that back with element. Crimson Slash 1 to Spirit Blade 1 is still, in basically every situation, the best combo. Or so I thought. But there is still one more thing in the patch notes that we missed, and that's this line. That the Crimson Slash 3 now chains faster into Spirit Blade 1. So let's talk about that. So the combo we were looking at before was just doing the Crimson Slash over and over and over again. So once you get back to red, it's just going Crimson Slash, and just pressing the same button. However, you saw there's a little tiny delay between the Crimson Slash 3 and the Crimson Slash 1. The idea now is that instead of just going straight back to Crimson Slash 1, we're going straight to a Spirit Blade 1, and then back into Crimson Slash 1 again, which comes out pretty fast. So we don't actually lose that much time by doing the Spirit Blade 1, but it's a very strong attack. And it turns out that that combo is actually pretty good and pretty fast. You can do 10 combos in 40.6 seconds, which makes it pretty quick. And if you look at the damage numbers now, it's actually pretty good. So we do 3,200 or so damage just from this combo, with 109.4 element damage. Which basically means that we're doing 4.3% less roll, but 31% more element. So that's a tiny bit of raw we lose, but a massive amount of element. And this is something that we can actually make up for in very real situations. Basically, all we need to do for this combo, this Crimson Slash, the full Crimson Slash to Spirit Blade 1 combo to do better, is we need more than 12% of our damage to be done by element. 12% of our damage is done by element with the normal swapping combo, which means 16% of damage will be element with the full Crimson Slash to Spirit Blade 1 combo. Now, you're probably thinking, when does this happen? Well, so there was a whole element video that I'm still working on. It is very complicated, difficult to talk about, difficult to do. But the brief summary of that future video is just going to be that the weird thing with element is that, in a weird way, everything all sort of happens at once. Like, once the monster's element ratio starts to get high enough, then you want to use the element attack decorations. And once you use element attack decorations, you want to start putting more element in your arting weapon. And you want to start changing combos, and you want to start changing your armors. Okay? So, basically, what that means for us here is that when a monster's element hit zone is more than about a third of their raw hit zone, then it starts being good to use an element attack 3 decoration. So, like fire attack decoration or thunder attack decoration. And then when you do that, that actually boosts your element high enough past that 12% threshold. And since it goes past the 12% threshold, we want to change our combo and do Crimson Slash to Spirit Blade 1. Okay? So, how many monsters have that? So, there are a few of them, but the important ones, the 8-star monsters, are Seregios and Mizitsune. What's interesting is they're both also Thunder Weak, and also they just released a good Thunder weapon. But we'll talk more about that later. The main thing is that in these situations, it becomes worth it to use Thunder Attack 3 as a decoration. And then when you have Thunder Attack 3 decoration, you do enough element damage that you want to start using this full Crimson Slash to Spirit Blade combo. Again, this is not the case for most monsters. This threshold is pretty rare, but it does happen, and it happens for these two monsters. Okay? So, yeah, basically that just means that if a monster is very element weak, you want to do the full Crimson Slash to Spirit Blade 1 combo. There are a few other very minor pros and cons as well. So the interesting pro with the Crimson Slash to Spirit Blade 1 combo is it's very easy to hit a weak point. So what I mean by that, once I can get back to red, it's basically that when you just alternate your attacks, you can see, once I get there, you can see that I'm basically always going to be attacking right in front of me. Maybe I'm going to go attack something a bit higher, but I'm always going to attack right in front of me. Whereas when I did the full Crimson Slash combo, you can see that this Crimson Slash 2 goes left to right, and so I might hit something like on either side of me instead of hitting the weak point right in front of me. Okay? The other thing is that, as established, doing the forward Spirit Blade does lose you out on damage, so being able to reposition without losing damage when you're alternating is pretty hard. But if you're trying to use a Crimson Slash combo, you can sort of walk between your attacks, and when you walk between your attacks, you can sort of do something with that. It's a bit easier to reposition. They're probably similar overall, but Crimson Slash is easier, at least. And the last one, which does become a nice bonus, more so than actually being important, is that the Crimson Slash combo does use less sharpness. And it's fairly significant as well. Okay, so if you look at how much sharpness you use per minute, the Crimson Slash 1 to Spirit Blade 1 combo uses 83.3 sharpness per minute. The full Crimson Slash to Spirit Blade 1 combo uses 59.1 sharpness per minute. So that's about 30% less sharpness, and in exchange you're doing at 4% less damage. In practice, what that means is if you would have used 100 sharpness to do a certain amount of damage, now you will only use 74 sharpness. So you're saving like about a quarter of your sharpness, which is pretty nice, to be honest. Generally pretty nice. And of course, taking into account element, it becomes even more efficient. Of course, you're doing more attacks than just these ones, so it becomes less efficient again, but you will save a bit of extra sharpness if you use this Crimson Slash 3 to Spirit Blade 1 combo. So yeah, that's something. It's not something that's super exciting, but it's a real benefit. Okay, so with that, I think I can bring us to our final summary conclusions. So what I want to ask is that after all of our nerfs and buffs, did the combo change? Are we still going to be using the Crimson Slash 1 to Spirit Blade 1 again and again and again in the combo? The short answer is yes, but the long answer is a bit different. The long answer is, if you're fighting Mizutsune or Seregios with a Thunder Weapon, or just some other very element-weak monster, and you're using a Thunder Attack 3 decoration, then Crimson Slash 3 plus Spirit Blade 1 does actually do a bit more damage. It also makes you a bit less sharpness hungry as well, so you'll feel your sharpness will last a bit longer, but it will do more damage in these situations. It's not very common, and if you just want to play it safe and you don't want to change your build, then you are going to still want to be using the Crimson Slash 1 Spirit Blade 1 combo. But if you want to change your build and you're fighting these strong monsters, then you can change your combo and it'll be better. Okay, so that was it. Thank you all so much for watching, and thanks to my Patreons as well. If you were here yesterday, you probably would have seen an older version of this video. And also, I think I changed shirts as well. Basically, I forgot about the Spirit Blade 1 buff, which changed things around a bit more. Like, without the Spirit Blade 1 buff, everything is way worse, and the conclusions were a bit simpler. But with the Spirit Blade 1 combo, like, just weaving into it, it actually makes it a bit better. And honestly, I think it's been interesting as well, because you actually need to, like, sort of time your attacks a bit better. So yeah, I don't know, genuinely I think it's pretty cool. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Next video, which should be pretty soon, will either be other weapons changes or other weapons. So yeah, keep tuned for that one. Like and subscribe, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Bye.